Hello, and welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. I am your host, Andy, and with me for this special summer series on Heroes vs. Villains is Emma. I practiced that. Emma!
I mean, for the video, we've got it on the little thing anyway, so it's all good.
Emma, I think the whole crowd wants to know, since we're going to do this, what's it like to be a hero?
I imagine amazing. But I feel like you'd have to ask Rupert. Isn't he the only one who truly knows?
Well, I was just thinking, clearly I'm the villain, so you must be the hero.
I mean, to the Tumblr crowd, probably just by virtue of being, a girl and funny. Then yeah. Hilarious.
Well, maybe what it is that all us Purple Rock folks are the villains, and I'm sure you'd be able to find a site or two or somebody that might agree with that, or maybe four of us, and then there's that guy we let talk that one time. Maybe he gets to be on the Heroes Tribe.
He's so clearly the actual hero, but we managed to spin into being the villain.
That's right. We would corrupt him like poor Sandra, who was totally a hero. And then cast wrong, and then suddenly she's ripping off tops. So, yes, we're here to talk about the first 3 episodes of Heroes vs. Villains. First, I thought we would just kind of lay the ground rules of what we're trying to accomplish here. First of all, we just wanted to watch something cool.
We didn't want to watch Gabon.
No, we totally tapped out on that one. And it's like, you boys have some fun.
We didn't even watch along with them. We were very unsupportive.
No, I was like, I'll remember it. I've seen it. That's enough for me.
I read the recaps.
Yeah, we commented. And frankly, I might have watched it, but there was no easy way to do so, and I wasn't going to go out of my way to accomplish something that wasn't going to be that much fun. But
you weren't going to go to purplerockpodcast.com/Amazon and purchase Gabon?
No, because I would have to pay duty charges to do that. See,
not worth it.
Because it's a reminder for everyone. If the accent and general pallor of the space isn't giving it away, I am not from America.
Are you trying to blame your paleness on being Canadian while talking to a very pale coastal Californian?
Yeah, it's great that I'm not the most pale person in this conversation. And I wonder if that would be true for 2/3 of the Purple Rock podcast. We are not a podcast full of color other than purple. So yeah, we wanted to watch something fun, something good, and a nice palate cleanser for the people that actually did watch along. And we batted around a few ideas, and we're just like, screw it, let's just go with the best. And that's what I think of Heroes vs. Villains. I'm going into this having seen it aired when it aired, and then watched it. I rewatched a bit of it last summer during our 30 for 30 season series. Mm-hmm. But other than that, that's it. And I have it ranked as the best season of all time, and I'm not really going into this to challenge that idea. How about you? Where do you fit in? How do you feel? What's your thoughts of Heroes vs. Villains before rewatching it?
I mean, when we did the whole, a couple of years ago, God, was that really multiple years ago?
We've known each other so long.
Did this series, about ranking the seasons and all that, and you had people on. I was, I believe, the first person you had on, which meant I was the one who got to talk about Heroes versus Villains, because I, like any good God-fearing Survivor fan, ranked it as number 1.
Yeah, and so this isn't us trying to get into contrarians it's not really that good. Only the true Survivor heads know how to appreciate a great season blah, and that's when the snob says something awful that I can't even bring myself to say. No, we just want to have fun and talk about a great season of Survivor. And as we say, this is a rewatch for us. We've seen it and we remember it. I toyed with the idea of trying to not talk about future events in the podcast, or at least save them to the end. And as I was putting together the discussion for tonight, I realized that's impossible. The fun and joy of a rewatch is to talk about the things you notice now that you didn't notice the first time, because they weren't significant until all of the events unfold. And you're like, they're setting this story up or that story up. So on the off chance that you're somebody who watches, Survivor and listens to podcasts and watches video podcasts, but hasn't seen the biggest season in the history of the show and is unspoiled, maybe just turn off the podcast now and come back. Come back at the end because, we're just going to spoil it all. We will be focused on the events of the first 3 episodes, but if things happen this episode that set up things down the road, we're going to talk about that. So I think with that out of the way, a good way to start this discussion is to talk about the theme. And they didn't want to call it just All-Stars 2 or something, generic that means nothing like, I don't know, Game Changers or something. They call it Heroes versus Villains, and I think that had some implications. What are your thoughts on calling the season Heroes versus Villains?
Well, it certainly affected the score. Like, just from them entering was so funny to me. You hear this, like, grand music with the heroes coming on their helicopter, and they get there first. And so Jeff sort of chatting them up, and then it's, like, practically the Imperial March, It's just like, da 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 da, and, like, they come down, and sand is blowing everywhere, and then those
it's the best, and I hope that they planned it that the first thing that happens is the villains lead in the... Oh no, I've lost sound here. Am I gone?
Oh, you're back.
There we go. But that's something I really picked up on now. Like, those darn villains.
And it's like, because they told the helicopter pilots, no, wait. We're gonna be, make a fashionably late entrance and just spray sand everywhere.
Yeah, and the scoring throughout the season, they're just having so much fun with that. The villains get the dark music, and the heroes, all uplift. And it's kind of funny because I think the best thing that came out of Heroes versus Villains is the heroes end up not being all that heroic, and the villains being much more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think like that as the irony or internet fan like, oh, that's what you get, probes, for trying to push these heroes down my throat. I actually think it's just funny. I like it. I like that like we get to see what happens when heroes don't have any villains to blame.
Right. And they maybe start turning other people on their own tribe, become the villains, people who are very likable the first time around.
Yeah, it's like the Harvey Dent line in The Dark Knight. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Mm-hmm. And that seems to happen a lot in Survivor if you keep coming back. Unless maybe sometimes if you start as a villain, you get to become the hero later. But otherwise, by that 4th or 5th time, people are like, yes. Although, obviously, there's plenty of people who tired of him long before he stopped coming back.
But tired of seen as villainous, I feel like, are different.
Mm-hmm. But I think the other thing that people have is obviously, the concept of heroes and villains in this game is, of course, silly. But at the same time, I actually have very little problem with the way they did it because the heroes are, the casual fan. These are the people they root for, and that's that tribe. And then the villains are the people who often were the antagonists towards those people. Yeah. But I do think that there were a few misfits here or there. Who do you think was the biggest misalignment? Not necessarily miscast, but who is on the wrong tribe?
Well, one thing I'd like to say first, one thing I noticed is when Jeff, asked at the beginning, who thinks they're on the wrong tribe? And on the villains, 3.5 people raised their hands. I'm forgetting who now, but someone sort of later is maybe me, sort of I want to join it. But it's 3.5 out of 10, and Jeff's like, almost all the villains think they're on the wrong tribe, and I'm like.
Yeah, that's kind of like when he did the whole, who thought I pressured Janu into quitting, and then Kobe is like, it's like, see, no one.
No one did. No one, it's fine.
The classic roast
the
move.
Tyler Perry out of lift Spencer had it. Yep, that's right. I knew it. You guys are just results oriented.
Yeah, no, the classic Probst of not remembering that you don't ask questions you don't already know the answer to. It's like, I'm going to make a point here, and I don't care what you say. I'm still making that point.
For me, anyway, to answer your actual question, to answer your actual question, so people didn't fit. Well, one, I should note that, like you, I first watched this live because, like you, I've watched the whole thing since the beginning.
High five.
We're the only ones of the Purple Rock crew who were like that. But yeah, and I was someone who I wasn't like a nerd about it yet. I was a nerd about it. I loved the show and stuff, but just didn't even know what was going on the internet and stuff.
Yeah.
And no, I'm still pretty young, but and I only didn't remember Candace and Danielle. Didn't remember them. Then having since rewatched, and I know this is a very common thing now people say on the internet, but I remember a couple years ago rewatching Cook Islands and being like, wait, why the fuck was Candace on the hero tribe? She's not only one of the white people, but she's she's the mutineer. She's against and it's just it just made the fact that they brought her back was already suspect, but completely wrong tribe. And she even proves it in the season.
Yeah, for me, it's Candace. That's when it happened. When they first announced the cast, because they're so famous. These are the big stars, plus Danielle and Candace. So those were the ones that I kind of I was pretty sure I knew who Candace was. Danielle, I had to look up a bit. I didn't have a problem with Candace being cast because she was a big factor in Cook Islands. And
right.
If she had just come back in Micronesia, nobody would question it. And of course, now we know that she was cast to come back for Micronesia and then dropped out, and that's how we got Parvati. So I didn't have necessarily a problem with her being one of the 10 women, but as a hero, yeah, are you kidding me? You painted her as a villain in her season.
And to be perfectly honest, I have no idea why I don't remember her. I really liked Cook Islands from the beginning.
It had been a while, I think.
It had been a while. I was I don't know, it just didn't remember her. And then of the villains, Danielle's easily the most forgettable, but it's one where it's whatever. If you were going to choose, if you had to put her on one team, I think that's where you put her. You wouldn't have her be a hero.
Yeah, so, she's just neutral. She's nothing, right? So I don't complain about her being a villain. We have another discussion about Danielle coming up. But yeah, Candace as a hero is just ridiculous. I think Sandra as a villain is a weird fit. She was the antagonist to one of the biggest Survivor villains in Johnny Fairplay. She was Rupert's running buddy, and he's a hero.
Yeah.
So
and that basically oh, you're a woman and you have attitude, so you're a villain, which is also the Courtney effect.
Yeah, but I mean Courtney, I don't have a problem with it because
I'm fine with it. But
yeah, she paints herself as that her shtick is that she's kind of bitchy and she doesn't like anybody. These people act like they're my friends, but really I just like them less or whatever the line is. I'm sure you know it. So yeah, that one I didn't have a problem with. But yeah, it was you could just swap Candace and Sandra, it'd be fine. Now I think what happened is they wanted to balance out athleticism probably a bit. But yeah, that one I didn't have a problem with. It's interesting when we posted that we were going to talk about heroes versus villains, and people jumped the gun and started commenting about it because we have the best commenting group in all of Survivor Internet land. People were like, "Oh, Coach is a villain. That's weird," and that just shocked me.
I shut that down. You process so fast because I hate Coach. I'll say it. I've always said it. I think this is probably, I said we'll have to discuss this later. I think this is probably my favorite season for Coach. We'll discuss that in a different episode. But Coach, and I know everyone's oh, Coach was annoying and self-specific. But you know what? Sure, maybe Coach was entertaining in Tocantins, but he was a sanctimonious asshole. He was a dick. He wasn't just annoying, he was a dick. And yeah, sure, Tyson was rude to Sierra and stuff, and Tyson was rightly put on the villains tribe.
Yeah.
But he has this whole thing about his playing with honor and integrity, and I've never lied, and blah, blah, blah. And he's saying all this to Sierra when she proved for a fact that he had lied. It was evidence, not just we see it, but it was clear from what they were seeing. And so, no, sorry, you don't get to be a hero for that.
You know, like he's obviously a villain. That would, yeah, like people started talking about that. That blew my mind. It's like, hey, he was set up as like the guy that was the hypocrite of the season and the ridiculous moron. Like that was his role in Token Genius. That was the entertainment value he delivered. He wasn't a hero.
Yeah,
He obviously thinks he is.
Yeah, Coach does think he's a hero, but that's why he's a villain.
Yeah, and that's what is hilarious about it. And I might agree with you that this is my favorite Coach because this is Coach hoisted by his petard from the very moment the season begins.
The editors are having so much fun. Just like, I mean, they were obviously having fun with Coach anyway, like in Token Genius, but now it's like they know what they're getting. They also know how long he's going to be around, and they have a great time, and I have a great time. Everybody has a great time, except
and they don't need to lean on him for anything but watch this ridiculous asshole and see what we can do with him. Yeah, no, that one doesn't. Yeah, that one blows my mind that anyone would argue anything but him being a villain. And if you think he's going to be a hero, he doesn't crack that top 5 of those heroes over there, so he's not on the season. The other one that people have talked about is Parvati, and apparently, if you believe what people have said, Parvati was on the Heroes tribe till they were like, hey, maybe we shouldn't put all the Black Widows together and moved her to the villains. For me, villains is the natural spot for her. Yeah. And I don't understand quite the argument against. Do you? I'll let you voice it.
It's tricky because, I love Parvati.
I love villains, so it doesn't bother me. Right?
So it doesn't matter. Like I was still fully rooting for her as a villain. It's completely, like, I totally get, like, not wanting all the villains on, or that was stupid, not wanting all the Black Widows on the same tribe or whatever. It's interesting, like, I think people say it's weird because you have 2 people in that same alliance on the Heroes, and she's seen as a villain. But I think if you look at their Cryons, they're labeled as their first season, too. So that's one thing. Obviously, they wouldn't cast Parvati, I think, on this season from, she was cast because of Micronesia, like, obviously.
She was in Micronesia because Candace dropped out.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like, she was not a hero in Cook Islands, whereas Cirie, easily a hero in Panama. Amanda, sure, in China. Like, fine. It's fine. She's not a villain. She's neutral and was an important player. So sure. But so that I guess could maybe tip the scales for that one because they need to find like the female heroes. And I mean, I think she relished it a little more.
Yeah, like Amanda was always the reluctant member of the Black Widows to the point where it's like, is she a Black Widow or was it like Alexis? And she just got taken out earlier. So that's fine. And then, with Cirie, it's just like, no, sorry, people fell in love with you in Panama and nothing is going to change that perception of you, especially because you just have underdog elements always within, your aura, even if you were, Oprah in a gangster suit. Right. Like they could do heroes versus villains again and she would still be a hero.
Plus, with Cirie, there weren't any real betrayals. Whereas, like, I mean, as much as we
kind of looked pretty stupid due to her machinations. But.
Okay, yeah, but that was everyone, Whereas, like, I think Parvati with turning on Ozzy was like they had a friendship from Cook Islands, and so. I mean, Rob is a villain from All Stars for other reasons, but it's like that sort of vibe.
And then also from Marquesa, right? Like that's just that's the role that he plays is the Rob father, sarcastic stuff, and hers is
the Godfather.
And as ridiculous as it is one way or another, Parvati's role is the seductress, that's kind of role. That's obviously sells short what she's good at, but what she's good at is often like social manipulation, which isn't a heroic thing as coded by Survivor and frankly their main audience, which is always the hard thing for people to remember, is that they don't really program for us. We're tuning in anyway. It's for the millions of other people who just like, oh yeah, sure, it's on, cool, I like this show, and then they watch people shouting at suitcases or whatever they used to watch before. So, Parvati's a villain. I have no problem with that. And, they just swap Candace and Sandra and everything would have been fine. But at the same time, I love Sandra on the Villains Tribe, and I'm glad she wasn't wasted on that dour-ass Heroes Tribe.
Plus, you think you wouldn't have Sandra and Courtney
Exactly
together, which is the greatest. But that doesn't come up yet, so we won't talk about that too much.
But you can bet we'll spend quite a bit of time, because that's the other reason why we chose this season is both of our favorite players are on this season. Rob with me, Courtney with you. But yes, I'm like the one person on the internet that will admit that they enjoy the work of Rob Mariano. And then another reason is 3 people that we'll... Wait, that could be spoilers, but there are people that on this season that we might see again.
That we have an interest in.
Yeah, so they're very topical. If
People
they were ever to do another all returning
the way they
season.
played, they changed everything.
Yes.
They just knew this game so well that they changed how it was played.
So, last thought on heroes versus villains is just, I think what Survivor does and what the effect that some people don't think about enough, although I think plenty of people do, is just by putting that theme, even if it's arbitrary and ridiculous to think of some people as heroes and some people as villains, the show has a way of getting its performers to buy in because they just hammer you over and over again with questions and themes and ideas. And I think it works really well in this season, with the heroes trying to be heroes and failing miserably, and the villains feeling like they have carte blanche to just do villainy things, which resulted in a lot of exciting moves that frankly would normally be considered dumb moves in some cases, and
some that still are.
Some that are incredibly dumb, but like getting rid of your strongest members in the middle. Who does that? Villains do, So that's something to keep in mind for future named seasons that might seem to have ridiculous themes that might end up resulting in what the producers are looking for.
I just hope that doesn't happen with Millennials versus Gen X, but that is a podcast for
Yes, that's the one we can talk about without worrying about spoiling people who want that. That's the big worries and why I am already hating that season.
Yeah.
I will completely give it a free shake once it starts, but I am not looking forward to all the confessionals about how, this person 5 years younger than me is super entitled, whereas my generation really worked for what we wanted, even though that is not at all what people said about my generation when we were younger.
No, it's like I get why it's not to get excited. I get why it's not baby boomers because they are too old, but it makes no sense to be pitting Gen X against millennial. Whatever. Fine.
Well, I know, and maybe I'm also afraid that this season is just going to tear the Purple Rock apart.
Yeah. It is amazing how perfectly split it is because we even have Matt right on the edge.
Yeah, well, it's Matt. He wouldn't get cast. You're like, sorry, you just don't fit into this fairly narrow bucket. All right, so we talked about the odd fits in the theme, but is this the best cast ever assembled 1 through 20?
Yeah, probably.
Well, hey, when you call it like you see it, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. I think without a doubt, that's the thing what really struck me watching the first episode in the intro. Is just like, man, these are the epic characters of Survivor, even more so than All Stars because that had only 6 seasons to draw from, 7 seasons.
7, yeah.
I mean, at the time, those were the biggest names, but they hadn't been, the time hadn't been as long.
Yeah.
And obviously it was pretty good then, but Heroes versus Villains hasn't been surpassed in the past since then. But I would say 1 through 20, yes, because this is 20 better than ever before, but there is that 20th. And I think, Danielle is a bit of the really her.
I mean, that's the thing, because that I think really shows that this is the best cast because you asked who would you replace? Who would be people you'd want instead? And, ignoring the impossibilities of your Colleens, Elizabeth Hasselbecks, etc. And especially for the people who need replacing, your Danielle's and Candace just because she's on the wrong tribe, couldn't come up with a lot. couldn't really come up with anything.
So yeah, I was like, how do we just make it like all legends or closer to? And for me, it's take out Danielle and put it in because the rest is okay. I think probably like Tyson or Randy are the least big names in the season, but Randy's pretty easily explainable. Like Gabon wasn't too long ago, and he was the big villain.
And Tyson definitely has recency bias because Tocantins was right before, so it's like, okay, fine.
Yeah, and like if they replace Tyson, and I understand because you already have Coach and JT, but I think he brought some athleticism, and they're obviously like the names have been out there of who else like missed the boat, and everybody, there's like 15 people that were the last member cut for Russell Hantz, and I'll say for each and every one of them. Yeah, you were cut for Russell Hantz, and you would be cut for Russell Hantz every single time. Russell Hantz is probably like the third or fourth biggest name on this cast. So sorry, Penner and Shane. But like there's some names, but honestly, like for me, they're all about on the same level as Randy and Tyson. And it's like Penner. We already have like a bunch of. There's like 4 other Micronesias. There's no room for you, Penner, and stuff like that. But for Danielle, I did have some names. So the first one that really leapt out at me, and one thing when I was thinking of replacements is you don't need to find a villain because she isn't really one.
Good point.
And you could just boot Candace over to the villain side and everything's fine. So you could pick a hero. The one I thought would be much more easily explainable is Danny from Guatemala.
I did think of Danny. That was one person I thought of.
But then the catch I thought of, and maybe why they wouldn't want to do it, other than maybe asked and she said no, is they're trying to get people to remember Steph as a hero. And if you have like the person that she just got destroyed in the final 2 for being awful to, because they basically act as though Guatemala Stephanie never happened, just as they act as though Guatemala never happened. To the point where like they just keep having James talk about how she lost all the time. It's like, but there was also the time, you moron, where she went to the final 2 and it was in a majority tribe that like Pagong the other side. Do you remember that?
But they probably didn't give Guatemala, in casting for them to watch ahead of time.
You saying that James is not a deep historian of the game?
I love James. I will defend James. James doesn't watch Survivor.
Well, you would have defended James. We'll see how much you defend James this season. So I think that could be an explanation why no Danny. So then I thought of, but a winner. You just don't have to worry about that. Like even if she's not a huge high-profile winner, as frankly Sandra was not before the season started. You would never say, the winner doesn't deserve to be there.
Right.
And actually, one note I should say is while I'm spending this time trying to replace Danielle as the weak link, wouldn't Danielle be a Titan compared to some of the people that are possibly coming back in the next season or have been brought back since?
Because, she has, say what you will about Danielle, but she's got a personality, at least.
Yeah, and she was, runner-up. Meanwhile, they're bringing back Monica Culpeppers and, Kelly Wentworth, who we loved, ended up loving, but realized that she had, 3 scenes per season.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying about Heroes versus Villains cast being so great, that, a runner-up feels like, it's the pretty girl that they threw in, which is what she is. So I was thinking another runner-up that was probably a little bit more higher profile was Nalia.
And Lord knows she would have said yes.
Well, I'm guessing, though, at that time, she's starting to have babies.
True. Good point.
So we can take her out. Another winner is Jenna Maraska, who is far more famous than Danielle.
Yes, and you could put on the Villains tribe just fine.
See, that's the one catch. Is of course she's the villain. She was the bitchy girl who everybody hated when she won.
Would you feel bad putting her as the villain given her last appearance?
That's right. So the last time we saw her, she leaves fairly heroically to be at her mother's dying bedside. And while this is going on, she is at the side of Ethan while he's going through cancer. So it's like you can't really do it. And then also maybe that's why she couldn't do it, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, when that was actually happening. Yeah, because that was I was thinking of heroic men to replace although I don't know who I was thinking of replacing. I think I was just kind of wondering who else could have been. I was like, well, there's Ethan. Oh, wait, when was that? Oh, no. And yeah,
the 5 hero men. It's those are the obvious ones. Those are 5 of the most popular ever. So as much as I would have loved to have like Yule. Obviously, for one, Yule's probably always said no.
Right, because you don't need Survivor.
Yeah, but frankly, I
Yule's
can't
going
make
to
the
the
argument that they should have cast him over them, even though I would so much rather see him than, frankly, any of those 5. But that's me, and again, they don't cast the show for me. I'm watching anyway. If Nicaragua didn't stop me from watching this show, nothing will. So then I know a name that was kicked around a lot, and a lot of fans in our group was Natalie Bolton. Apparently was under consideration.
That is the one villainous woman I thought of, but I can't imagine they wanted to add another Micronesia person, even though the appeal is there because she's original Micronesia. She's not. But there's so many.
Yeah, and not only Micronesia, but the 4th Black Widow.
Right. Like, I get it. Like, I still think they need to. I would still like to see her brought back. But yeah, that would have been insane. Like, that
I
would have been
think
insane.
I think that Natalie Bolton goes through that casting process in case one of those other 3 drop out. But you don't add her as the 4th.
Yeah.
So then the name that I came up with that I think would have been more famous and possibly more interesting than Danny and would be easy 1-for-1 swap is Heidi.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, nobody would.
It was like the same Jenna thing. Yeah. But without all the baggage
of that season, famous, Playboy cover model, the whole deal. Like, if they would have cast Heidi, if they would have said Heidi was on this season of Survivor, would you have been like, who? You would know who she is instantly, right?
I assume. I mean, it's hard to say what I would have remembered at that time, but.
Right. But I'm pretty sure we knew who Jenna and Heidi was, because Survivor was a bigger deal then than it was in Panama, for instance. So that's the one what if. And then honestly, if you get to that point, I'm not all that shook up that Heidi was not on. So sure, Danielle.
Wait, sorry, I'm just curious now. Okay, so Heroes vs. Villains was 2010. So she was already married to Cole Hamels at that point, so she probably would have been like, you know what? I'm good.
It's not about the money. Maybe she just wants to do it for herself. She has to have her own project. The baseball season's long.
Yeah, but then it's also probably as the baseball wife, you have to be good and represent the team and rabble.
What about Steph? Was she married to a baseball player at that time?
I don't know if she was married to... you know what? I think if she wasn't married to him yet, first of all, Kyle Kendricks is no Cole Hamels. Sorry, that is a joke that pretty much only Matt will get. But,
that's all right. We are not above narrowcasting at this show.
Yeah, but, I did actually have that in my notes because she is wearing a Phillies cap. And, I mean, for a while he was on the Phillies, so maybe.
All right. So that's who I got. Anybody in the comments below, if you want to write in who you think would be a better selection at that point in time. Again, nobody who would not come. Yes, of course, Colleen would be huge. Elizabeth Hasselbeck. You can't even say Julie Berry. Sadly, she cannot.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
And frankly, I would discount everybody in Samoa as well, especially since we know Shambo has always said no.
Right.
Because I think this was the first time they went extreme back-to-back.
Right, Rupert was technically back-to-back, but I think, I think
he had about at least a month or two. Russell Hantz had a week or whatever.
And I know some of China had aired when Pearl Island, no, that's dumb. Micronesia came out. Also, not to harper on this too much, but I looked it up, and Stephanie and Kyle Hendricks got married in 2010, so it really depends on when. So at the very least, she was probably engaged.
Yeah, maybe they had met at the pizza place. That'll make sense to you first-time viewers once you get to the reunion.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about it a bit in the way that the theme worked out, but I just wanted to talk a bit about just kind of the opening scene. That was epic as fuck, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was so great. And I don't just mean the helicopters or whatever. Survivor does helicopters all the time, but yeah, and it kind of gets back to the discussion about the cast is, you just go, wow, these are the big names. And I think that's why it was great that they didn't just try to narrow it like they did with Micronesia, that we're just doing Pearl Islands 2 or whatever. They reached back as far as Australia, because I think they'd burned through the Borneo cast.
Yeah, pretty much.
Bad ways. Actually, that's one other name I did think of is Wigglesworth. I'm guessing she said no.
Right, because she does at least claim that she had been asked multiple times. So
Yeah, and I believe it.
I assume that's true. Yeah,
At this point, I think the show
I don't think
has
she's going to
everybody.
be asked back again.
No, no. But yeah, it was just like, yeah, we're getting like, Boston Rob, Parvati, Russell, Colby, Jerry, all this saying that, and then the music swelling and the whole deal. It's just like it's hard to top that for just kind of just feelings, even if you're a jaded Survivor fan.
Especially, I think it's hard to say for like later viewer people who weren't always and like no shade on not being someone who's been watching a show for 15 years. Like obviously that I'm not trying not to alienate people, Andy. Obviously, like sometimes age is a factor there, or just like
You're hella young. Come on. What's the excuse, folks? I don't care if you're younger than the show.
10, when it came out, like I could know that things were happening. I was like aware of stuff, but someone 10 years younger than me could easily be watching this show, and so wasn't born then. But it's hard to, I think, really explain like the scope of what like when it was happening, if you weren't like someone who's fully experiencing it live and stuff. It was just like there hadn't been a full All-Star season, since season 8. That's a pretty long time. I mean, I guess we waited similarly, but there was only one half All-Stars season, and Guatemala, that's barely. Obviously it's not.
And even then, like that was all stars of like 6th place Parvati and like
right.
There was a few Eliza. Obviously these are names we liked, but these weren't the big names.
Yeah, like this was because Micronesia was also no winners and stuff like that. This was a really big deal. Like I remember. Like my mom and I being like really excited about it. I mean, there's a reason this is the season that a lot of people started getting back into the show. Yeah, and not just that it was a really good season, because that's not what gets you starting at the first episode.
Yeah, and it was in high def, so that's a big thing. I was jazzed just rewatching it this time. Just the intro, and then it kicks off with a pretty exciting challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We don't really talk about challenges, but even within that challenge, it had a few pretty memorable moments. I think probably the most iconic is Sugar with the double guns. Yeah. You've
Steph dislocating her shoulder.
And Courtney yelling about it.
Yeah. Well, that was before. I was just like, break her shoulder. And then, oops, they almost did. Rupert broke his toe.
So, ankle lock to Tom, which, really, that was a huge dick move. Like, it wasn't even doing anything. Yeah. And now that I know more, it's like Tom, permanently messed up his legs out on those freaking buoys. And so, goddamn, I hate Russell. But,
and then, there will be plenty of time for that. And of course, because you won't stop hearing about that, Coach Frog marching Colby to the mat. That
brings us back to the intro and Colby's, all with foreshadowing. It's like, I'm doing this to see if I still got it.
I'm like, oh, honey. Oh.
Right away. They underline that, and then they show us not so much. Stick to Gillette commercials there, cowboy.
Rob's. It doesn't happen yet, but Rod's first confessional is similarly painful. He's like, they should get rid of me right away. They never do.
Almost, but not quite. Yeah, no. And again, that's the other thing about why this intro was so great. Obviously our Edgic friends will tell us that they're all like this. They all, underline and foreshadow what will happen, and not to go back into that, because again, y'all were right. But so much there, so much.
And I think you just don't get that same effect when it's not established characters, Yeah. Like, we're rewatching and they're people you're already familiar with. So it's like, you're watching the first time, you're like, yeah, it has been a decade since you last played Colby. Let's see if you've still got it.
You still look good. Yeah, I'm sure you can be awesome.
Although, Rob, I mean, I guess it wasn't right away in more cases, but it's not like they kept you around for a long time. Like,
He dominated that first tribe, though.
yeah.
Last Hunter.
Yes.
Look at a website that might talk about how that changed Survivor.
I love it.
Yes.
That was me.
But yeah, I just right up from the bat, the season is great, and then we get into the tribes, and this is just a thought we had while discussing that Villains Tribe is so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, like, how much more fun would it have been without Russell Hantz? And I don't mean this as like Russell Hantz ruined the season, because I actually think that he is a big reason why the season is one of the best of all time. But he broke up like this glorious grouping of shit-talking villains.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like the camaraderie. Because you can definitely see in little scenes, and you can see sort of after the fact that, like, Courtney and Parvati, like, totally, I think, kind of connected and were, like, friendly and stuff like that. And then they were obviously on very different sides and stuff. So it's like, imagine if they all could just chill, because all they have to do is get rid of Randy, and then they're just hanging out, like, because they start winning and stuff, and then they can just, instead of Tyson, they probably all just decide to get rid of Coach or Danielle or someone who just makes things unpleasant, and it's just great, and they just hang out.
Yeah, and they probably would have kept winning, so they could have kept talking. Because, like, one of the best subplots running through the first 3 episodes, and maybe it's actually just in one episode, but it's so funny, is the way that the Villains Tribe just keeps egging on Coach and Jerry for their showmance that really isn't. And it's totally for their own amusement, and I love it.
I will give Russell credit that he totally is, like, in on that trolling game, and, like, him and Parvati sort of teasing Coach about it. It's like a couple of, like, high school kids, like, talking about, like, yeah, I hear she likes you, and, like, oh my god, are you gonna ask her to prom? You totally should. Oh my god, you guys would be so cute together. And it's like Russell doing that, like, yeah, you should go for it, man.
Like, and it just totally feeds into, Coach's view of himself, and he's probably just so excited, like, yeah, people are finally seeing me as this guy. And then on the other side, like,
to me, who wouldn't be?
Yeah. And then on the other side is, like Courtney and I think Sandra and stuff were like, egging on Jerry. And it's just so funny. And I love it. And
they all see it. Like, it's like that moment when you just are totally like, oh, they're going to do it.
Even though I don't think it ever really got to that level at all. I think a lot like, there's probably a little bit of spark, and more of it was just like an extension of what they were doing in their spare time when, they weren't building shelters or anything like that, because but it's just like teasing Coach. Because another great scene in the opener is when Sandra and Rob are just like betting over whether he's going to break his neck going after the coconut.
Yeah. And then of course I love that, when he decides not to go, it's not just like he didn't go, he's like, I could have, but if I had fallen, it wouldn't be worth it. I'm like, oh, so you thought you were going to fall.
Yeah, it's just like that could have been what the season was, and frankly, it was probably better the way it ended up, at least in terms of like excitement and stuff. But there's just like it's just such a great collection of like cynical smartasses on that tribe, and it was so much fun. And
there are people.
Yeah, exactly. It was. What shows is that how like the heroes versus villains dichotomy ended up working often the opposite way. The Villains Tribe was the fun tribe, even though they weren't getting stuff done. They didn't have the physical threats. Meanwhile, on the Heroes Tribe, not as much fun. This is because they're not fun. They're not funny people. Before we leave the Villains Tribe, though, I would just want to kind of highlight a bit. And another reason why the season is great is the storytelling. And the first big story of the season is Russell versus Rob, and we started to get it right away. Any observations?
Yeah, I was like, that was a statement.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, yeah. Usually how this works is I talk until like my voice gets so quiet and I stop talking, and John's like, okay, I can listen now and start talking again.
Here's a chance. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I think Russell does not realize that everyone else not knowing who he is the best thing that could have happened to him. Russell wants to be, Russell should also realize that, I mean, I guess the season hasn't aired yet, so he doesn't know how, like, for sure how big of a character he is on Samoa. But, you know, Russell doesn't really, he's still going to get a lot of airtime. He's still going to be considered one of the stars. But Russell wants them to think he's a star, you know, and they don't know who the fuck he is. So he does it, and he's like, you know, I'm the king of Survivor. Like, Rob's not the king of Survivor. And Rob, although little does Russell know, he did not win Samoa, so really he and Rob are at similar levels at that time. But in fact, I think Rob probably got one more vote with fewer jury members. So,
yeah. He lost by one vote.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the thing. It's like he feels like everyone's stealing his shine, even because nobody knows who he is. But he's still getting plenty of shine. He just can't see it yet.
Yeah, and that is an actual fun part at this part of the season. That is a little bittersweet eventually, is that, yeah, you just see him bristling. Like, why are these, and he's saying it at first, like, it's great that I'm finally playing with people who know how to play the game.
Yeah.
He's not just saying it in front of them, like he says it in confessionals too, but then you feel it bristle. Like, why isn't everything about me? I'm Russell. I'm Russell Hantz. You know?
He is so jealous that Coach has a crush on Rob.
And I love the Coach crush on Rob.
Like,
we're going to double into that more in later episodes. But
Coach has a bigger crush on Rob than he does on Jerry. And Russell is not having it. I don't know why Russell expects anyone to have a crush on him, but everyone,
yeah. Including Parvati.
It's like, Russell, sweetie, Parvati doesn't actually... That's just how she is with everyone.
And he will never figure that one out because she is awesome at this and he is something else. But yeah, and the foreshadowing is there. And I'll flat out admit right now that as Heroes vs. Villains was airing, I was pissed when Russell won this battle. And not just because it meant Rob was going home, because frankly, I did not have great expectations for Rob because of what happened in All-Stars. I figured he'd be too big a threat. Right. In fact, as the season went on, I'm like, what, is he really going to do this? And this, we'll talk more about Rob in the coming episodes, but it was more just that Russell won, and it bothered me. Mm-hmm. But it turns out that he won one battle. And the story of the season isn't so much about that. And so it actually turned out to be a very great season as a result. Probably better that Russell moved on to lose later than necessarily, Rob frog marching to the end. Because we've seen that season and people don't love it. Yeah. Not even I love that one. So, yeah, the foreshadowing's there, and that's a story we are going to track for the next 2 episodes until it is not the story anymore. Another thing I love at the Villains Camp, it just kind of shows how fun they are, and just kind of the dynamic. And what goes into this is when jealous Russell decides that he's going to enact his trademark chaos that can never lose Survivor, and hides the machete.
Jason.
Yeah. And he just doesn't care. Nobody cares. He's like, they're going to lose their minds when this happens. And what if I'm going to take his B cap? And they just laugh about it because they're villains. They don't care.
Also, it led to Russell praising the Houston Astros in 2010. But,
they're going to dominate the National League forever. See, now we're narrowcasting. That's right. Yeah, no, I think we've got like 7 or 8 baseball fans, so we're good there. I can't imagine any of them are Houston Astros fans, but hey, maybe let us know. Certainly not as many as Boston Red Sox, although maybe I wouldn't be surprised if we also do not have Boston Red Sox fans. Cause,
I don't know. Do we have anyone from Massachusetts?
Well, we don't have a lot of asshole fans, so that's probably it.
Oh.
Yeah, there it is. So let's go to the other side and the Heroes, which
do we have to?
We do, because they took
fun.
They took a lot of L's in these 2 episodes, and frankly, it's kind of a good look for them.
Yeah. Well, where do you want to start? With their obvious first vote, or?
Well, let's just talk in general. So they construct a great camp. They're the great workers. They're the workers.
They sure do catch some chickens. I will.
That's right. It wasn't quite a top 10 chicken moment.
No,
but
it was not.
it happened, and good for them. And then they just like fall apart immediately, and it's fun. For me, the fall of the heroes from their elevated perch of we are the awesome, honorable people is one of the small pleasures of heroes versus villains, because the entire hypocrisy of the idea that we are the people that don't betray people has always bothered me about Survivor. And frankly, when you do a heroes versus villains season, maybe a worry is that they're just going to reinforce that. But the game has other plans, man. And everybody gets their hands dirty.
Pure sweet JT.
Yeah, and I think JT went in there like, I'm going to prove to everybody that I was also the brains of the operation.
Right.
And so, like,
I think what we really proved is that JT and Steven need each other.
That's right. Because I think after this season, people are like, "Oh, not so smart after all." Maybe James, and then Stephen comes back, and it's like, "Yeah, no, I think you guys are a hybrid."
It's you know what? It's been too long since I took biology, but they need each other. Symbiotic.
Like if they were running like campaigns, JT's the candidate. And he's going to be able to get the votes. But Steven is he's the campaign manager. He's the guy that ends up being the chief of staff. He is just as integral to the success, but you're not going to get those votes.
Yeah. One thing that sort of mirrors, in a sense, the heroes thing and Russell being jealous of Rob is that you see Rupert suddenly just really hate Stephanie. Just really anti-Stephanie. And I was wondering, like, I had in my notes, I was like, is he just, and like, then Stephanie even realizes it herself. Is like, is she just mad that I, like, became, like, the big deal, like, right after, his season? I was like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, no, Rupert has to be the fan favorite, and,
Can you imagine if Ozzy had been there?
Well, I think that's actually interesting. Where would Ozzy be? I guess after Micronesia, a hero?
Well, if Parvati is...
Even though he was like a douchebag, so... Because everybody forgets what a giant douche he was at the beginning of Cook Islands.
Yeah, I know, it's true. But I mean, Stephanie was still a hero after Guatemala.
Yeah. So yeah, Ozzy would have been there, but it's the fun thing about...
They're still dating?
I doubt it. I doubt that lasted that long. Barbara Anderson will have to tell us in the comments.
Yes. I know it lasted outside of Micronesia, but I don't know how long.
But yeah, the heroes just, they take, they get all excited about... Did they win the opening challenge?
They did.
Yes.
Despite all their injuries and lost articles of clothing, they won the opening challenge.
Right, which, basically, spoiler alert, but the theme of the challenges are, when it was muscle-based, the heroes won, and anything that wasn't, they lost. Until the villains, decided winning wasn't all that important.
Because they won when there were puzzles, because they had Rob, and Rob is good at puzzles. And then...
They didn't. But yeah, and so yeah, they won that one, and they were all excited, and then they take one loss, and they just completely fall apart. And I think what happened a lot on the Heroes tribe is that was the tribe that had the bigger pre-gaming going on.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least if you're listening to Stephanie before and after. That's what was happening.
And I mean, there's one particular instance that I knew nothing about until talking to you, actually, which blew my goddamn mind. But I don't know how much we want to reference that, so...
Oh, I think we'll get into it when we get into the booths, but, it's another example of no matter how far you take pre-gaming, it often don't work. But, obviously you had the Amanda James...
right.
Plus Sari as at least somebody they could work with, and I think that's what... Meanwhile, like Tom, Stephanie, Colby really didn't do any, not just pre-gaming, like possibly going out there, but they weren't involved in the Survivor community. And actually, this is a question I had for you. How many people on this season do you think Colby had heard of?
Jerry.
So Jerry, obviously.
Jerry and Rob.
Rob, Rupert, because Rupert
Rupert.
and Robert were on All Stars with him.
They were on All Stars.
He might not know
Maybe-
Rupert's name, but he recognizes him.
Maybe Sandra because of Rupert.
Yeah, and just like he was
And
maybe
it's early
vaguely
enough.
aware of Survivor back then. Maybe like he would watch it at Probst house back then or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the entire list. Like when he's talking to Candace about
I
like
was gonna
sussing
bring
out who's on who, he has no idea who Candace is.
And like poor Candace is only she's like say what you will, like I was not someone who liked Candace, but Candace is a fan. Candace watches the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so Candace, she's talking about these people. She's only talking because she knows the show. Like she's like, you know, she's saying people who know each other because they're seasons, and then he's trying to find out the social dynamics like outside this. She's like, I mean, I don't like know them because Candace was like in medical school. You know, she didn't have. She might still talk to Parvati, but like she didn't have time for that nonsense. You know, but like, sorry that if you could hear.
Another high-speed chase in Los Angeles.
Always, when is there not? Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, like she, you know, she was in medical school. She pushed back her wedding to go on Heroes versus Villains, so she obviously had like a very like she was living her life, man. Like
Yeah.
she's not.
But
going
I just love that scene because there's no way Colby knows who most of these people are. He has no idea who James is.
Exactly.
And I think that's the where they started from behind is that they had no connections, and the heroes I think were very much ruled by previous games, and like this is their pre-gaming. Yeah. Whereas I don't get that impression with the villains. There's the rumors that Parvati was told about Russell, but obviously they didn't ever talk about it because he was busy. And all the other things that go down there, like it very much feels like Rob and Tyson met for the first time. So. Another strike, I think, against the value of pre-gaming, which, this can lead into the first discussion of the boot. Sugar, her pre-gaming didn't really work all that well.
No, it did not. No, it did not. I mean... You know
what? I'm just going to let Barbara Anderson say it in the comments. We don't need to talk about it.
Because, like, the thing is, it's like, what happened after she gets voted out is, like, too... Like, I don't want to make fun of that, so... Like, it's just, oh my God. I can close my window, but I don't know how much that's going to cover.
And here I am wearing headphones to prevent feedback. I
can't control the streets, Andy.
But you don't put a sign out? Like, I have right on my door, do not come in. Unfortunately, the people that would come in can't read that well. But I think they're asleep. But yeah, so Sugar, on first glance, super obvious boot. She is the misfit of that tribe, and frankly, even for herself, is like, I probably shouldn't be here. And then obviously things that happen afterwards really underline that fact. That's, I think, the one we can reliably say she did not hang around Ponderosa, we'll say. And
for good reason.
Yeah. And I when we were discussing earlier, I have no problem with her being cast. Sugar was a big deal coming out of Gabon, which was a fairly recent season. But the other time, but now that we know in retrospect, was that Tom and Steph and Colby's last chance at being able to do something in this game?
Well, I'm trying to think. I mean, sure, if they get Sugar... Yeah, like, because clearly, because they're all, everyone's like, yeah, obviously, Sugar, like, duh. And then,
and honestly, the person really leading that charge seemed to be Colby, so.
Yeah. And then, so it's like, because Colby hasn't watched Survivor in forever, so it's like, the, like, not physically strong outcast, for Spoon.
And the one that's, like, pushing up against me in the shelter every night, I just want to sleep. I ain't no Hershey bar. Yeah.
I thought I was done with that. But yeah, and then Stephanie's like, wait, this is too easy. We should strike. We should vote Amanda. And then that side is like, we should do Stephanie. And obviously people they ended up talking amongst themselves because then they all vote for Sugar anyway. So that must have, they just punted that one. Look, I made him dynamic.
The heroes, of course, it's like it's got to be one of these three women. It can't be anybody but a woman. We would never consider voting out the super old pirate with a broken toe. It has to be a woman. Meanwhile, the villains did not vote out a woman first. They discussed it, and we'll discuss that wasn't a bad idea.
Yeah.
But yeah,
their reasonings for voting out were very different,
Yes.
or for thinking about voting her out were very different, and it comes out every time she plays. But yeah, I'm trying to think though. I mean, okay, so if they get Sugar on their side, that's 4. Obviously she didn't have that much pull with JT. So,
Yeah.
like,
And that's the thing,
maybe they can get Candace, but, like, I don't know, like, somehow Candace ends up, like, linking with Cirie. I'm not really sure how that pairing happens, but it does, and Cirie is clearly, Amanda and James, who have been playing with each other every time they've played. So
Yeah, and like it's never worked out for James, but that guy, he just doesn't hold a grudge. And I suppose, like Micronesia, Amanda did not vote him out, and it seems like she did. Yeah, exactly. And it seems like she didn't want to, but I think she would have.
There's no.
And then obviously, she was one of party to the people who made him to be a complete fool in China. But no, let's do it again. Let's run it back. Me and you and Amanda. This is the third time it's going to work. Ultimately, it would have been preferential to get rid of somebody on the other side and keep somebody who was not a threat to them, especially in the way that things work out. But the votes just weren't there. JT, I don't think, was interested in keeping Sugar, obviously. And like I said, Colby wasn't, because Colby is not a strategist. In modern Survivor terms, I think the idea that Colby did not play a strategic game in Australia is overwrought. I think he actually did. It's just a completely different type of strategy that is no longer valid. But yeah, I mean, Sugar, it was just going to be Sugar. And I think if they had a chance later, it wasn't that. Actually, so we've talked a bit about how JT was a decision maker in that and danced around the fun rumors that you can look up for yourself. Honestly, I don't even know it's fun, really, but it's a nugget of trivia that we know. And then he's the decision maker again in the next vote, or at least positioned as it, and even more so in that challenge. It's JT. He's done this before. He's going to lead us to victory. And obviously, when it doesn't go down, Steph takes all the heat for talking. But did JT actually try to lead them in that challenge? Because I don't really remember him saying much that they were talking over.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. It's hard for me to focus that much on a challenge that I've seen before and know the result of, because it's hard for me to focus on the team, especially challenges. Anyway, maybe not.
Yeah, it's just like they keep saying JT's the decision maker, and it seems like his deal right now is I want to avoid making a decision. And I'll say that's probably where the Sugar vote even became easier. He wasn't forced into a corner, and he could still play both sides, and I think that's actually astute for him. Mm-hmm. The longer he can be undeclared, the more things could break his way. Mm-hmm. Because losing that first one, the heroes might also think that they're not going to go ahead and lose most of the next ones. Right. So he could have maybe we're not going to tribal council again for 3 times. Nobody needs to know what side I'm on, and I could pick a side with more data. But he just doesn't ever really seem to be much of a decision maker, so much as I better do what's over here. And we never really get why JT is deciding one way or another. So it's kind of a weird edit of showing he's the swing vote, he gets to decide, but we're not that invested in what he decides. And I'm guessing some of that either, it's just not there. Or, once JT finally makes a decision this season, it's not go so well. But I was just saying this in the challenge, I always felt it was more than unfair, the heat that Stephanie took. And obviously, we'll get into that right now. But it's not just that, James was an asshole. It's I don't think JT was doing anything. And I think if she started saying something, it was because they were just kind of standing around doing nothing. And in the absence, I think that Stephanie did try to step up because the heroes stuck at this.
Maybe JT was he was giving directions, but it was only in Southern, and so only James could understand him.
That's right. And he mumbled it, and we're good old running boys. And that's right. This is going to be a season of really terrible accents for me. Congratulations, everybody. I bet you're excited about that.
He's so bad at them.
Well, because in Canada we don't have accents. There's it's just a flat tone. Absolutely, there's nothing I say that sounds funny to a non-native ear. Um, let's talk a bit about James.
All right. I mean, I'm probably going to be a bit on an island here. I mean, he was not being nice, okay? But I think a lot of this, like, James with the heel turn is, like, a little overblown. Because it's just, like, yeah, he was not being nice. He was yelling. But it was, like, the yelling stuff was not particularly cruel. Or, like, in terms of, like, what the content is. And I think a lot of it is just sort of, like, frustration with what's happening and stuff. And, she's in the other line. Like, that it's a sticking point for me when someone starts saying bullying. And when, like, Tom and, like, grown men, say that James talking about this was, like, bullying, it just struck me as odd. Like, it was like, yeah, sure, he's, like, yelling, but it wasn't like, you are a bad person and, like, do not bully. It was like, yeah, you're not listening and you lose a lot and stuff. I don't know. And then something like in the next episode when Tom described it as like brutish kind of like made me wince a little bit. It seemed like just like a loaded word.
Yeah, and honestly, two sides there. For one, when I was watching these episodes, I still was reminded that I love Tom Westman. I love him. He's great. I like some of what he was saying, but I do think there was probably some coded language there.
And I don't
shockingly from a New York firefighter.
And I will say, I don't think it's, and I think this is true of like people in the room, I don't think it's necessarily something he realizes is code, because that's what I think, that's a whole discussion. But like, I think that like a lot of people, they just don't know. They just don't know that that's like a thing, and you don't know what's like been ingrained in you. But yeah, it was just like I mean, he is this like huge guy, but there's still just like, this guy picking on the and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was
we're dancing around it because nobody wants more to hear about like racial politics from two of the whitest people you see on YouTube outside of Sweden. But yeah, there's that. But he's also a huge man, and he's a huge man bearing down on a younger woman. And I do think. And I understand your sensitivity that like anytime anybody does something negative to anybody that they is feeling like underdogish on Survivor, the bully word starts coming out. But if people alive on the ground are remarking upon it, I give that a little bit more credence because obviously they're seeing more, and I think it is a stance, and it's some of it is the standard issue Survivor social dynamics of James wasn't. He has the bigger alliance. She is outside of his alliance. So he has the power to berate her. And as Stephanie even mentions it, she can't defend herself that much because she's walking on eggshells trying to save herself. And
true. And
that's where bullying comes in, right? He has more social power, and he is using that to make somebody else feel smaller. And I mean, obviously, some of this is Survivor, and Survivor, as much as we love it, is inherently unnice in some areas. Is that I'm going to form a group of people to vote out people outside of my group, and I will find the reasons to do so, even if they're bullshit, because I have to vote you out, and human beings feel better about doing those things when they have justifications. So yeah, I absolutely think that's some of what was going on in James, but I also do think that this was the beginning of the fall of James, which I do believe is a story throughout, whether legitimate or not, but like Jeff Probst was remarking on it.
Yeah, and there is, I mean, I think there's probably the sense that what we've seen recently was on such a different level that now it's like how even Jerry remarks in the beginning how like she was seen as this evil villain, and now it's like totally tame, and sort of it's and that was 18 seasons prior, but like this maybe it's like, well, after you hear someone being told they have no soul saying you lose a lot of challenges, like doesn't seem so bad. And something I'll say actually even against my own perception is there's probably the sense of like that Stephanie is this tough chick, and so she can handle it. But like, you still shouldn't talk to people just because they seem tougher, and she's not like petite or anything.
Yeah, and more than that, like he was very aggressive language. Like obviously later when he's talking to people and he's doing his James thing where he finds like one semi clever thing and he just keeps repeating it over and over again. She lost every single time. Nobody in the exactly. That's exactly what I was getting at. And this time it was like nobody in the history of Survivor ever been there, and she's the only one. She's the only one. Another great impression by me. My God, I'm on fire.
I do feel like I'm like, oh, James, that's such a flawed argument. Like, because she was obviously viewed as the best of that one.
Yeah, and also,
maybe
again,
everyone else sucked.
She was the runner-up in her next season. Like, she's done far better as Survivor than you ever have, James.
James has never won an individual challenge. Yes. You know who has? Courtney.
And I believe Stephanie, maybe.
Yes, but I just want to say that Courtney.
Yes, of course, Courtney.
Courtney won.
Courtney. So but like he told her to shut up, very aggressively, and that's something. And then more in the fall of James and how, because James was awesome in China, delightful presence. Even when he gets voted out, he's still a lot of fun on the jury.
Yes.
Micronesia, he was still pretty good. He got a little smug at times, which is what tends to happen when people are in good positions. And then when he fell and was in a bad position, maybe he said a few things that were, sexual politic-y, not great. But honestly, he was a guy who was trying to come to terms with the fact that he was about to lose again.
Yeah.
So, and then again, he's delightful on the jury. But here, not so much. And the other thing besides the way he, just constantly berated Stephanie was his performance in the challenge against Randy.
Yeah, it's because the actual act, I think, is it's such a.
Oh, he finished him off quickly. That's easy.
Fine. Why did they even match them up? I'm not sure.
I have an answer for that, but I'll let you finish.
Okay, but and so you see, everyone knows. Honestly, if I were Randy, I would have just jumped off. Why? Why bother? They were losing so badly anyway, too, at that point that there was really just. But
if the chronology of the edit is correct,
right? True, and it could be true. But the just, and even though it's coming, the quickness of the knock off the thing is so sudden that I just burst out laughing because it's just shocking. It's just ah. But yeah, it's you don't need to throw it down.
When he spikes it in his face and then taunts him afterwards, that is a continuation of no more Mr. Nice Guy James. And maybe being humiliated on Survivor Past, I can understand makes you want to be that, and it's also kind of the fun. Getting back to the theme, we're not here to be heroes anymore. Perhaps unless I'm Rupert, I'm always here to be what you want me to be.
Even if it means being the same blood as my wife.
That's right. I don't know the testing methods back then, but yeah, that's just a jerk move. Now on to why Randy faced off against him. That was Randy's idea. They recognized anybody who faces James is going to lose anyway, and probably anybody Randy faces is going to lose. So consolidate those into one L.
That's actually
really smart.
That's actually a really smart strategy. Which further. So I'm then don't. That sounds out, but don't. Why even try smack talking? Just jump off.
That's Randy being Randy, and probably the villains being villains.
This is probably a little unfair, and we have no evidence of it. But given because we did already see James acting like a jerk, so it could totally have just been James acting like a jerk. But my own prejudice against Randy, because we are not Gabon fans. We do not find Randy charming even now. Sorry, I don't. I think he's a dick. But in the back of my head, I wonder. It's what else was said? Did he? Could he have said something that made him want to do that? But he very easily might not have. And he was and James was just being a jerk. I have no idea. I have no evidence.
And obviously we don't. But just from the edit, there's the continuation of aggro James.
Right.
James, because in China he wasn't part of the main group right away. He fell into that once Aaron was taken out, and Todd started to wonder and gave him a couple idols, right? In Micronesia, he was part of the big group, but he was just kind of there, And honestly, the other side wasn't a challenge anyway.
Right.
This is the first time James is taking control right away, and it ends up not being a good look for him, and I don't think it ever gets any better, and we'll discuss some of it later, even though, he does have one of the better lines of the season. So that's a story worth tracking. Yeah. So
Although, if we can have a quick moment of positivity from James is when they're killing the chickens. I know this is a funny 115 entry, but like, JT's killing the chicken or something. He just has this confessional about how it reminds him of his grandma used to do things just like that, and she would just shake his chicken, and we would all scream, and good times. It was traumatic, but good times.
maybe that's what set James off. It's like, there should have been a trigger warning before, which is a term that I'm sure people will be throwing into confessionals in snide ways next season. Moving on to the next boot, Stephanie goes, and there's the question. So we already discussed how saving sugar to use for their alliance was not really an option. Is there anything she could have done to save herself?
For Stephanie, I mean, I think probably if. Maybe from the beginning, figure out that Candace doesn't know anyone and, bond with her as, an athletic female, of probably roughly the same age. I don't know how, but I feel like they were probably both at least in their 20s. Right?
Yeah, they'd probably be on the same generation tribe at the very least.
God damn it. But, and see someone, who's on the outside there and, I mean, Suri, that's hard to say if they'd be able to pull because, again, they need the right amount of people. Or if she could convince them, why get rid of, why not get rid of Colby or who was Rupert with?
So Rupert seemed to be immediately with James and Amanda.
Yeah, I guess.
How did that happen? It really isn't. Yeah, and I think maybe there was. Sounds like there might have been some pre-gaming there. Yeah, people can let us know in the comments that follow that a little bit more, but I think Amanda might have been a little more aggressive with that sort of thing. It's actually funny, a little side note, and you probably maybe heard this from Randy's RJP, that his pre-gaming was with a bunch of people who were never cast. It's like Ace apparently was in casting or whatever. So
also don't pre-game with the people who were on your season.
Yeah, I think he's looking like Marcus and Ace. It's you should have those guys in the bag.
Yeah,
but if you're missing Tom or Grady, who else are you calling? Really,
right.
Who's taking your call?
But, because, I doubt Amanda did any pre-gaming with James besides, oh, my God, yay, we get to play together again. Cool.
Yeah. But
stay tight.
I think what Stephanie maybe could have done, who knows, success or fail, but we didn't really see this, is we did see her approaching Candace and Suri, at the last minute. Mm-hmm. Which is usually unsuccessful, but if the editors at least to be believed, those two were at least taking phone calls, in free agents parlance, if they weren't actually shopping around. But both her and Tom just did terrible jobs with the cell. Mm-hmm. And it's just the classic thing of, hey, instead of being at the bottom of that alliance, how about you come on over to ours and be at the bottom of ours, Yeah. At that point, what you need to do, if you're Stephanie or if you're Tom, and I'm not going to bother mentioning Colby because that's a dead end, is sell out the other two. And it's hey, why don't we make a final 3-pack? Or, even better, the person I'm talking to now, me and you, final 2. You don't need to worry about hanging on the end of Amanda and James and Rupert.
And
let's do this thing. Let's run this. Because I think people have done this in the past. They did it in Micronesia, where they approached Suri with thinking that she'll be happy enough at 5th place. And that's not Suri. She's not.
Suri wants to win.
Yeah, and I think if you offer her a real solid finals deal, because I don't think the other side gave her that, then she would have flipped. But if not, she's like, what?
She knows the man's not taking her to the end. She literally knows that.
She didn't. So that's what they should have done. Either Stephanie or Tom should have been approaching them as, we need to run this tribe, not join me and these other two losers. It's you count those guys out, and let's take out one of Amanda and James. They're the dangerous power duo. And I think that could have had some success.
Do you think they were wrong in choosing I get why they figured Amanda, although it was weird for them to be if we're doing a weaker person, it should clearly be Amanda. And Amanda wins a good amount. Why
not Rupert?
Yeah, pick someone that's, and also not just that, the weak thing, and you don't want to tell Candace and Suri that you're targeting the weaker player, physically weaker players. First of all, But like, even if Cirie was pulling the like, hey, she didn't take me to the end, I'm not necessarily with Amanda, like, maybe target someone she doesn't know as well, you know? And like someone who isn't in, say, Candace's demographic, and Candace who watches the show knows that Parvati, who I don't know if they kept in touch, but like she was friends with Parvati on Cook Islands, and knows that Parvati is friends with Amanda, like she might be thinking ahead of that being like a connection, you know? So they target someone none of them are close to, and like Rupert has a goddamn broken toe.
Yeah.
Or
the
Jane.
thing is, the thing you always do. Who do you want out? You know, like us three form a final three. Colby and Steph can, if I'm Tom, for instance, Colby and Steph can just be our, you know, fourth or fifth. Like they're not any use to me right now. I need your help. How can I be part of you? And actually, sorry, this is probably even be easier for Steph to make that argument because it's like us three women. Those guys are, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And they didn't do that. They were like, they were doing their dunderheaded heroes thing. Like, we're going to play honorably, and what you want to be with us? Because I think if you get those, you also get JT. Like, JT isn't loyal to that side. He's just not going to stick his neck out. And I will say, like, their argument is like, if it's going to be Steph this time and it's going to be you and you, that's also like insulting. Like, it's clearly you guys are going to be next because you're weaker. And I think as soon as you approach Cirie with that, she's out. And, like, that's what happened in Micronesia, where Penner and Yauman are all like, no, join with us, be our, you know, fifth. It's kind of funny, though, that, you know, they weren't wrong about Cirie. But
I did have I was like, well, she has that going for her, at least.
Yeah, so they were right. You were the next out, but, you know, obviously through different means. Right. All right, and then the last photo of the episode, these episodes, first time the villains go to tribal council, and it's Randy. And first instinct is obvious as the heroes. And, you know, let's pour one out. The Gabon rewatch ends now. The epilogue is over, and none too soon. However, unlike the sugar thing, where I just think it was a non-starter, the votes weren't there, I kind of think, and I've thought this for a long time, that voting out Randy might have cost Rob the game.
Yeah, no, I think it's the same thing, like, in Micronesia, Penner was like, I guess he must have just seen something on Cook Islands, like, playing with her, because there was no game evidence there, but was like, Parvati, you know, can't trust her, but, like, she's too good, you know, she's a threat, we got to get rid of her. Now they have that evidence of Parvati, you know, like, real concrete evidence. And Coach, of all people, actually really lays out why Parvati is good. And not in the, like, oh, she's flirtatious. Like, it's mentioned in a way, but, like, he describes it in a way that it's not even really, like, sexual flirtation. It's just, like, a way that because she's a woman talking to a guy, it'll be perceived that way. But it's just that, you know, she's charming. She makes you feel good just by talking to her, you know.
Yeah, I think Coach's read was the exact right read on Parvati and, like, everything that I've heard about her from former survivors. When you're with Parvati, she makes you feel like you're it's kind of like what people would say about Bill Clinton and stuff. Like, you're the only person in the room. You feel better just being around it, and that is dangerous. It's actually the thing about Coach. Every once in a while when he drops the Coach bullshit, he is actually really perceptive, and we saw that throughout South Pacific. He just could never get away from himself, and that's why he lost.
Right. I mean, with Parvati, like, I've mentioned this to you guys, like, privately, like, I think when it actually happened, but, like, many years ago when I was working at this bakery, you know, she came in and was like, and I like talked, but like, oh, like, I really, you know, I was really rooting for you, and here's this villain, so I'm a big Survivor fan, you know, and like, she was like so nice, and like, she actually, because our shirts had these awful puns on them that I hated, and so she was like, oh, my friend would love this, like, can I, like, she took a picture of me, like, like this thing, and like, it's just like, oh, Parvati is here, shine, starry eyes, you know.
Yeah. And, like, that's what people say, like, oh, social game, and she's a great social gamer, and absolutely she is, but it's just, like, it's her natural charisma. That's what people are responding to. I don't know. Yeah, and I think she's also very strategic, so she knows how to use that, both in Survivor and life. And, yeah, Probst, because he's not a deep thinker in the world, always trying to bring that down to, like, you know, the temptress, the sexual level, but that's not it. And Coach totally called it. And who else called it was Randy, who basically, in his confessionals and in his, you know, discussions with people to try and save himself, laid out the entire season. Randy called everything that was going to happen. He was 100% right. And I think they blew their chance to get rid of Parvati and to completely take control of the game.
Yeah.
And obviously,
they didn't, but
yeah, and look, it took extraordinary circumstances for it to come together, and I understand why you think, no, we got a big alliance here. We can get rid of her later. Randy is a pill to be around. And to which he himself admits, like, he was not ready to come back to Survivor. He was still, this big misanthrope. I doubt much has changed in that point, but he's gotten older and more mature.
More mature. He was already.
Yes, old. But maturity ain't always about age.
That's what I keep telling you guys.
And, he was drained on some challenges, and Parvati does have value in challenges. But, I mean, not so much that you should keep such a dangerous player around in your tribe. And I think because they go on such a winning streak and because a few things weirdly break, they lose. And if they had just voted out Parvati here and kept Randy as one of their numbers, like, he wasn't going against that big alliance. And frankly, I think if you have those big numbers, I don't know if Danielle goes against you either, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this entire game is different, and maybe we're having, people can have to adjust their snide remarks that, like, Boston Rob's no good because he only won on his third try. If they had just voted out Parvati here, like this, and I think the big lesson here that we've learned a few other times is the best time to take out a big threat is as soon as you can. Mm-hmm. But instead, they treated this in a very, old school way. This is the free vote. Randy's the weakest member, and we can just get rid of him, and it costs. And
I think it's especially true in an all-star season where the biggest threat is a known quantity. Like, it's not just like, it's dumb. It can be dumb in newer seasons where it's like, this person is a big threat because they are strong, so we should get rid of them now. And it's like, that's not going to help you, But, like, where they have seen exactly how Parvati is able to play and yada yada.
Yeah, like, the way she is threatening is so incredibly dangerous to you. Like, you can't let her be around. Whereas the way she is...
it's not useful to you.
Yeah, it's not useful. Like, Rob, I still think, like, you just don't vote him out first. You get what you can out of Rob, and you try to vote him out later. Now, obviously, the Redemption Island crew grew to regret that, but they had opportunities. But, yeah, he's the one building your camp. He's the one helping you win challenges. He's useful. We might, see in the future with Tony, even though he feels dangerous, like, he is a hard worker around camp. He's a strong dude. But Parvati is just dangerous. And Russell is just dangerous, which is why the next time he comes to play, people vote him out. They create the first opportunity to get rid of him.
Which I think might be overkill, but still.
Yeah, that's what Parvati is, and they absolutely should have gotten rid of her. But to your point, I'm glad they didn't. The season is better that they didn't. And I kind of feel like another player that might end up being like this is Sierra from Blood versus Water in Cambodia. She doesn't have a whole lot of value to any tribe she's on. No. She's, I think, good at puzzles,
and she's not
a dangerous player. Like, you can get rid of her. You can build the threatening case early and get rid of her. And they should have gotten rid of Parvati.
Yeah. And one thing I will say, though, which is actually sort of almost in defense of keeping Parvati, but not in enough of one, but just that one of their arguments was like, she knows all these people on the other side, which, for one thing, just further showing that nobody remembers Candace. They always just mention the Micronesia people. And it's like, first of all, Courtney knows James and Amanda, too, and Danielle knows Cirie, but... Mm-hmm. And then it's like, Parvati knows James, Amanda, Cirie. She also knows Candace, but nobody mentions that because no one gives a shit about Candace. But while that's definitely, like, you could see that, she might jump to them, it's like, or if you work with her... she might be able to use that to your advantage. Like, and even though she does not work with those people, she definitely uses knowing them to her advantage later.
Yeah, and that's what Russell points out. And sure, if you're working with Parvati, then that could be a great asset. But they were not working with Parvati, and it didn't seem like they had any intention to. And I bring this up about, like, this is a big lost opportunity, and I'm not just framing it for Rob's sake because, I'm a big Rob fan. I think he's the one that made this vote happen. I kind of feel like Coach, Jerry, and Tyson wanted to vote out Parvati. Like, Sandra.
Very much so.
Yeah, Coach very much so, and I think Jerry very much so. Like, she's already, like, hates this.
Coach and Jerry were linked, man.
Well, and Parvati and Jerry both have confessionals about how they can't stand one another.
Yeah.
Although Jerry, again, it's like, I wish I had what she has and bottled it. Like, she recognizes, how formidable she is. And I think it was one of those deals where it's the first vote. Nobody wants to really step out and assert their authority. Rob has never had a problem with that, and especially after, he has his big fainting spell and his big hero moment, and I'm going to do this now. I don't care about other people's feelings. I had a crybaby-itis. There you go. Possibly the second worst impression on podcast. But yeah, I think this is him. I think this is his ego. Like, no, Randy, he's useless. I don't like Randy. He's not my kind of guy. And he blew it. And why I say I think Tyson wanted to vote her out is because later on we'll see him go to extreme measures to try and vote this person out. And that's the other thing. Like, if Parvati wasn't there, Tyson doesn't do his thing. They just easily split the vote between Russell and Danielle, and everything smoothly goes on.
Yeah, and who knows if Russell would even play an idol on Danielle.
I'd say he 100% wouldn't have.
Exactly, because Danielle ain't charming.
No. I mean, maybe he just does because he figures this is the play, but he also wouldn't have felt like he could because he thinks he manipulated Tyson. When we get to that episode, we can discuss that. We'll discuss it then. But yeah, I think, and that's obviously this is results-based things, but the evidence was there enough that this person is dangerous to you. You should get rid of her. The danger she represents is really high. The value she represents is minimal. Whereas Randy presents no danger, other than he could vote with anybody at any time. But if you have the most people, it doesn't matter. Obviously, his value is also incredibly minimal. But I'd say put Randy here. Value and danger is about there. Parvati like that. Like, it should have been like a no-brainer. That they already seemed to have formed some kind of alliance of 6, and she was not part of it. And she knows she's not part of it. You gotta get rid of her. Like, that was a huge mistake.
I wonder if, they were shocked by the Stephanie vote, but I was going to say, I wonder if seeing the heroes vote for Sugar first made them think if they just went with the easy one, that sort of buys us time to not play the game for a bit.
Yeah, and I do think it was part of that, and we'll discuss this throughout the next couple episodes until it becomes a non-starter. I do think a lot of the season Rob overcorrects for things that cost him in All-Stars. So that's a little nugget we can go for. So I think that's all I got for these episodes. You got anything more?
Check my notes real quick. This is very, very minor, but at the end, bitter old Randy throws his buff into the fire. I'm like, is that where they got the idea?
Game changer!
Yeah, to burn the buffs during Redemption Island? Did that come from Randy?
They
were clearly pulling ideas from that season, so.
Possibly. All right, so that's
now
it.
People are going to think they missed rumors and that Randy's coming back for Game Change.
No. All right, so that's all for now. Next week, we will be discussing the next 2 episodes of Heroes vs. Villains. We're not doing 3 episodes, and why we split it up that way will become clear in the future. Mm-hmm. So that's your homework. Obviously, if you want to watch ahead, you can, but then, your memory for commenting might get all jumbled. Because stick to the topics, of course, although you can always talk about the future like we already have. The last thing we wanted to talk about really quickly is in the past, what was it, last week? Was this last week? There was the news that the AV Club is no longer covering Survivor. Reason why we want to talk that is, if you've been with us for a while, that is the genesis of everything we do here. We met, and by we, I mean the entire Purple Rock staff, me and John, and frankly, a lot of the people that comment on our site, met because AV Club decided to start covering Survivor on their TV Club coverage, and we started commenting on it a lot. And we did it so much, we're like, hey, maybe let's do a podcast. That would be stupid. And then we did it. And then, as we do more of that, we brought more people in. We talked more. That's where the fantasy game started. So that was our home. that's where we started until we decided to start doing this. And obviously, as time went on, we kind of distanced ourselves from there, not due to really anything that was going on there, more that once we got bigger, it felt like a dick move to keep telling people, oh, yeah, you should come to this website as well. We generally try not to delete traffic. Once we just looked like, oh, man, maybe we're leeching traffic, we stopped. But we always liked that place. And I just would kind of wanted to get a little nod of, like, this is the place that brought us all together. It is what introduced me to people I weirdly consider friends, even though, you live in different parts of the country and some of you are disgustingly young. So, I don't know. I just thought...
I've actually met, so...
It's true.
I'm young, but...
I thought it was worth just kind of mentioning a bit of the end of the era. And,
Yeah.
Well, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, I was like kind of shocked because it still had a pretty, like, I will admit I'd gone there less and less. And, like, on one hand, I'm like, cool. So now, because, like, being on the West Coast, there's just so much to catch up on with, like, all the commenting and the tweeting and stuff like that. So it's always, like, reading through Twitter and then reading Matt's live blog and those comments and then reading the AV Club and those comments once we started doing the live blog. And it's, like, so much. But, and I noticed, like, this year, like, they still get a lot of comments, but maybe just it's all the same people, which was probably kind of how it always was anyway. Yeah. It's just different people. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, the comment culture, although Carrie's reviews were always of quality, the comment culture had gotten a little weird there, I think probably because a lot of our good people were like me and just didn't have the time to, like, heavily comment on two things. I know Hornacek would just copy and paste the same big comment on each one, so everyone got to see it. But, yeah, like, I mean, we were really thinking about it, and, like, some of you guys were there later. I don't know when Mark actually came in, but, like, I started just commenting a little sporadically at first, but in South Pacific. And, like, if you think about how many years ago that I was 21, like, I was a baby.
Yeah, you were little Emma, and the little part was accurate.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, not inaccurate now, but... And
no,
it was,
you're hella old, man. That's the second hella this 38-year-old guy said.
It's upsetting.
Far past the quotient that I'm allowed. I apologize.
As someone whose hometown is very anti-hella, it's been upsetting both times. but yeah, like, I mean, I remember, like we were looking back at stuff, and, like, one of my earliest comments was, like, a reply to John, and, like, I remember, like, being, like, I was sort of, for a while, because I came in, it was, like, they had been covering the show for, like, a couple seasons. I think it started, I forget when it started, but like, that was around just when I joined HB Club in general. It wasn't like it was on it and then, like, oh, Survivor. And I remember it was a few seasons later for Cara Moen, like, and then getting more into the show. It helped because that was such the nadir of the show. But then Philippines, and we were all so excited. And oh my God, Malcolm and Denise are amazing. And like,
Cara Moen was when we started the fantasy game.
Exactly. And John, like, inviting me to the fantasy league was like, because we weren't talking outside the board yet. It was like, oh, cool, like, I'm one of, like, the people that they think of being a regular, like, that's neat, And so then just to look at where we're at now is just so bizarre.
Yeah, no, it was just kind of like this fun community building thing. And I think how that worked is we were people who had, and I don't mean, it's one of those things where I always have to preface that I'm not trying to insult other groups, and then I say things that seem insulting. I really mean it. Survivor fandom is awesome in many different forms. It's just I'm trying to show different. Is that we were people who had more diverse interests. Like, frankly, for a lot of us, you, me, Survivor was like this dirty little secret almost, right? Like, it was a show, and it's like you and I, we've been watching it forever, but it's not like, I never listed it as my favorite show, and I wouldn't really talk about it with people that I wasn't married to all that often. But AV Club already had a bit of a comment culture, or that I was there before TV Club was a thing. They launched TV Club, and it was a place to comment. They actually tried to do Survivor the first season and then dropped it after like 5 episodes because it really didn't match the AV Club style. In fact, most of every fucking one would have that. Oh, is this show still on?
And it still would get that sometimes.
Yeah,
it's like,
until we just took them over and we got those people out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I think how a different kind of group grew, is that we are people who like TV and something, and it wasn't just Survivor obsessives, which other Survivor commenting had become. And for me personally, I used to comment back at Television Without Pity. That's when I really first got into Survivor as an internet commenting thing. Again, I'd been watching since the beginning, but I got into that, I think, around All Stars, maybe Pearl Islands. But then it was gone. TV Without Pity, I think, overlapped at the beginning of TV Club, but it wasn't there. And I found there wasn't a place there I could discuss Survivor. And it was awesome that the AV Club just started doing it again. I can't quite remember what season. I think they came in at the end of Nicaragua to talk about how awful it was, and then they followed it up.
I know there's the finale of Heroes versus Villains, actually, but not the whole season, just the finale.
Yeah. And I think you'll find me commenting on there.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, I believe
Hercules pointed that out.
Yeah. And so I think that's how this parallel commenting group that we are so proud and excited to have started. Is just the AV Club already had a bit of a commenting culture of, be a little funny, be a little astute, don't be a dick, although, obviously there was some of that, but, there's community pressure in different places. And that was refreshing, and I think that's what drew people there. And then, obviously, we decided, and then by the nature of us commenting there and doing fantasy games and getting to know one another, and we invited you because we liked the way you commented, and same with Matt and other people. We got more into Survivor. Survivor became a much more fun show because of the community there. And after a while, it became clear that it's impossible to say this without some level of ego, and I don't mean it to be that, but our group, and I don't just mean us 5. I mean the group of people that make this website what it is, and that's the commenters. That's us, and we were filled. Now, if they had thousands of comments, it was because there was 15 of us making 800 of them or something like that.
Especially for the fantasy league stuff.
Yeah, and we always felt bad about that too. It's like we're derailing conversations, and we try to keep it to a thread, but other people would come in, right? That's one of the motivations for doing stuff on our site besides the podcast. It's like, let's stop, eating in other people's threads. We always were cognizant of the fact that we were guests there, but I think after a while we outgrew the AV Club's mission, which is this is one show of many, right? And especially as TV Club grew, they were posting 10 a night or something. Yeah. As we all became bigger Survivor fans, it made more sense for us to have Survivor place to discuss. And so it's just a weird mix of emotions when I heard that announcement, because it's like, this is why we do this, and this is how I met people that are awesome. But at the same time, it's like, I don't feel bad that the commenters move on to our site. For one, because we don't make any money off of it. And for two, it's just like, it made sense. We wanted to discuss Survivor amongst these cool Survivor people. And if we have a unique culture compared to other Survivor commenting sites, it's because it grew there and it grew into something great. And I wanted to pay some homage to that era. And I'm excited that there's still some place for us all to exist. Until it becomes too much work for us, and then it's all dead.
Yeah, well.
So that's all I had to say about that. For everybody who came from the AV Club, I'm super excited that you are with us. And hopefully we can still keep doing cool stuff.
Totally. And if you're a fan of iZombie, support Carrie's iZombie reviews instead, because she's still doing those, and that show's awesome, and that is my unnecessary plug.
And Emma will be starting up the iZombie Fantasy. No, I'm just kidding. So this would be the point where I end the show by saying hit the theme music, except that for the video portion, there's going to be no theme music. But for the podcast version, hit the theme music.